In today's how-to video, I'm going to explain how to execute reloads on the move. On the move meaning moving forwards, moving backwards, moving to the right and moving to the left. Each time I will show and explain how you need to reload. Reloading is one of the basic skills and techniques that you will execute literally thousands of times. Why? Because you have to load the magazine into the gun to actually engage, and it already starts with the load and make ready command. So you load and you reload your gun multiple times, which, if you execute it right, goes from your conscious mind into your subconscious mind, and you don't really have to think about reloads anymore. Obviously, depending on in which division you shoot, having, like in an open division, having a mag well facilitates and makes it much more easy to load and to reload your gun. The basic technique for reloading is as follows. Again, you start from your core position. I refer to previous videos that explain the core position. And even when the RO calls you to start your stage, make it a habit of executing your loads and your reloads in the same manner. What do I mean? If you pay attention to your fellow competitors, you will see that even with the command load and make ready, that people will do the following. They will take their gun, they will keep it in front of their waist and belly, and then they will load the gun, load and charge the round into the chamber, activate their safety, and reposition the gun into their holster. This is actually the incorrect way of doing it. As I previously said, try to make the loading and reloading of your gun a completely subconscious process. And how can you do this? By always doing it in the same way, the same manner. So what I recommend is the following. From your core position, DRO gives you the command to load and make ready. Where do I pick up my gun? And I will actually load my gun in the position that I'm required to do so whilst on stage, for example, doing a reload. Which means on eye level, and the most important is that I see the beginning of my grip, where I need to insert the magazine. I really need to keep it at that eye level, see that position. Some shooters, certainly beginner shooters, will actually tape either a fluo or a white sticker so that it really draws your eyes to the right position. So here I will insert, I will charge, and then I will put down my gun. So even for the command, the initial command of load and make ready, I will make it a habit of loading on eye level as I would need to load my gun during the stage. And then I can actually engage. So even from a static basic position, make it a habit of doing this manipulation correct from the beginning. Now, when do you need to reload? Obviously, it's dependent on your stage briefing, your walkthrough, your stage plan, but also which division you shoot in. I'm shooting in open, which means that I have to perform less reloads than a shooter in a production division, for example. But the basic principles still apply. During your stage walkthrough and in your stage plan, you will determine the location or the movement or transition in which you will reload the gun. That needs to be incorporated in your stage plan. What you really need to avoid is running your gun dry, meaning your magazine is completely out of rounds, there's no round chambered anymore, and your gun remains into the open position. If you do not count your rounds, also considering maybe some follow-up shots that you need to make, and you run your gun dry, that implies that you will lose valuable fractions of seconds, which can be determined obviously for your placement in the final results. So what you should try to avoid as much as you can is running your gun dry, and that implies that you really consider the moment and the location in which you will do a reload. It's better to do one reload too much than to running your gun dry, be surprised, lose fractions of seconds to then again load your gun to proceed. Another point of attention is the moment in which you reload your gun. In general, there are a couple of exceptions, but in general, try to reload whilst you are not shooting, meaning whilst you are not engaging targets. And when are you not engaging targets? If you are transitioning, if you're moving from one position to another. Obviously, if you watched my video on how to shoot on the move, the portion in which you are moving, transitioning, that's the momentum of reloading your gun. If you need to reload in the midst of shooting a target away, again, you will lose fractions of seconds. So it's better to do it before, preferably whilst you are moving. And the first technique, I will show you how to reload your gun whilst moving forwards. Forwards implies here that I'm going to move into that direction. So, I'm coming up, I need to engage these targets. What I'll do is, in the move, throw out my gun, load, and engage. So I do this on the move. I'm not going to stop, load your gun, to then continue. This is the incorrect way to do it. The correct way to do it is, I'm moving, again, basic position, loading and engaging, moving forwards. Second option is reloading whilst moving backwards. This is a little more complicated, especially because you need to be aware of your down range, and in this scenario the down range is here, which means that my gun always needs to be pointed in the downrange direction. Now, how do I reload going downrange? Well, it goes as follows. I just shot this target array. I need to move backwards, and as I just explained, when will we reload? Whilst in movement or whilst in transition, which means that in this time frame, I'm not shooting, I'm not engaging targets. This is the ideal momentum for me to reload my gun. Now, you say, well, why don't you reload here and then move backwards? Obviously, that's an option, but in general, you will see that you will lose fractions of seconds. The benefit, if you do this, is that it probably will feel much more comfortable, and it's also safer because when you are leaving from here, either when you have to engage targets on your right-hand side or on your left-hand side, that will determine how you will hold your gun. If you need to engage targets on your left-hand side, you will actually hold the gun like this. If you need to engage targets on the right-hand side, you will actually drag your gun behind you. So how do you, after you shot this target away, how will you reload your gun whilst moving backwards? I will actually pull up my gun, again in eye level, I will drop the magazine, I will already take my next magazine, and whilst I move backwards, with the complete gun and the mag in my eyesight, I will load and move backwards to then engage the next target. So again, I just shot. I want to gain every fraction of a second which I can. I will move backwards. This is important that you keep your gun on eye level and also that you don't sweep yourself. So keep it on eye level, and whilst moving backwards, I will insert to then engage the target. This might look dangerous, but if you execute it correctly, it's not dangerous at all, and it will gain you fractions of seconds, and maybe with the other things that you do, seconds on the stage. The next method of reloading is the reload when I need to move from the left to the right. And for me as a strong hand shooter, this is easier than what I'm going to show you later on, from the right to the left. For left-handed shooters, it's inverse. So here, this is the downrange. I actually shot the target away. I have the option of doing my reload here, but I lose a second, 2 to 3, whilst remaining in this position. But if I apply the drop step technique, I refer to my other how-to videos for that, and I drop my gun and I use the drop step technique, which will look like this, and again, with the gun in my eyesight, I will load to then again engage the next target. This is the momentum, I'm not shooting, where I perform my reload safely, correctly, so that as soon as I get to the next shooting position, I can engage the targets. If you need to move as a right-hand shooter from the right to the left, considering that this is the downrange direction, this is where you need to pay attention, but the basic principles remain, meaning get the gun up into eyesight and practicing the reload. But what you need to pay attention for here is the direction of the muzzle, because the downrange doesn't change, which means that what I might be tempted to do if I reload is I might do this when I'm moving here. And here, this is not breaking the 180 yet, but a little more, and I'm going to be DQ'd for breaking the 90 or the 180 rule. So if for a strong hand shooter, you move from the right to the left, this is a technique that you also need to practice. And if you practice this, you will see it's not a problem at all. It's just a little more counterintuitive. So I just engaged here. The same principle applies. I will drop the magazine, use the drop step technique, load to engage. Here it's important that you actually turn your wrist a little bit so that you keep the gun in the downrange direction and you can safely, on eye level, again, reload to proceed to the next shooting location. If you are dry firing at home, for example, make it a habit of not always using the same magazine location to perform your reloads. Try to go through each magazine pouch, even if it's on the rear, to make it a habit of going through your different magazines. Another way to practice and get the process of reloading into your reloading into your subconscious mind is the Burkett reload drill. You can find multiple videos on the Burkett drill on YouTube, but basically it boils down to this. It's from a static position, from your core position, you reload, you exit, you evacuate the magazine, and again on eye level, you will pick up the next mag, you will insert it just that it's insert it into the mag well and to the grip, but you're not going to complete the cycle. This is to really train your subconscious mind. This is a particularly useful drill for example, production shooters or limited shooters that do not have mag wells, because it's just a little more complex of finding the mag well and inserting the gun. So here, the Burkett drill implies that I'm not gonna enter completely the magazine and then reassume my position, but not thinking about it anymore. And this is how you can practice repetitively and a lot the reloads, so that you don't have to really think about it anymore. It's a subconscious skill.
Moving like the speed of sound. Feet can keep on the ground. Can't stay